that the establishment wanted people to take worldwide. Now, we don't know specifically what was going on, but we know in special trials of subdivisions of the vaccine, there were deaths in Poland, deaths in Czechoslovakia, deaths in the UK. In some cases, a third of the people or more they gave the vaccine to would die. Just type in a homeless die in Poland, and you see the number where they give it to, I think it was 50, and then like a huge number of them die. I'm going from memory, but you cannot make this stuff up. And then I have this article, new vaccines will permanently alter human DNA. Consider this article in light of the accelerating push to mandate and enforce vaccines and vaccination across the planet. The reference in the New York Times, 3/15/15, protection without a vaccine, it describes the frontier of research. Here, the key quote that illustrates the use of the synthetic genes to promote against diseases while challenging and changing the genetic makeup of the humans. This is not science fiction. And again, they have the vaccines that go in and actually alter your brain to make you submit. They say this. They're going to make you better with a shot. And they just say it real calmly. And if they tell moms to do it, your daughter's going to be well behaved, they'll shoot their daughters up. And the media will act like it's totally normal when your daughter becomes basically an unfeeling zombie and commits suicide 5 years later. And no one will help you then. They'll just tell you a good job, like with the Gardasil, you know, she dies 3 days later, or she has a convulsion, never walks again. They'll just quietly pay you out for the big secret vaccine fund of taxpayers' money. Because this is an overall agenda. Your daughter wasn't meant to die 3 days later. She was meant to become sterile down the road and die at 30, not at 12. But you got to break a few eggs. With a soft kill to be strong enough to kill you 20 years down the road, it's going to kill some people on the spot. So take your shots. And if you work for the system and the government, be delusional. Feel like you're part of the power structure. Hate me. Say I'm a liar. And roll up your sleeves and prepare to be brain damaged. Because I'm not lying. I have the facts. I know we're living in a science fiction dystopic nightmare. We're entering it. But because there's so much good stuff in the world still, as night falls, as the tyranny creeps in, a lot of folks aren't noticing because they're too busy mesmerized by the brainwashing. Quote in the New York Times, by delivering synthetic genes into the muscles of experimental monkeys, just like it was monkey kidneys that gave 98 million Americans, according to the federal government, cancer, SV40. And that was just one special immortal cell gene line that gave you so much pleasure and sucked so much money out of so many millions of families. But I'm sorry. Let's read the New York Times. By delivering synthetic genes to the muscles of the experimental monkeys, the scientists are essentially re-engineering the animals to resist disease. Yes, we're going to make you better. Of course, you're only getting sicker, but never mind that. We're going to make you better. I'll take the shots. My good friend, Dr. Edward Group, is in studio with us a little bit into the next hour. And then we have other guests joining us today. Victor Ostrowski, a high-level famous member of Mossad who has exposed false flags, corruption in his own government, our government, you name it, white slavery sex rings. This guy really is a hero. He is going to be joining us today for 30 minutes. Then Roger Stone had technical difficulties because they keep hacking into any new computer he gets. He's a very savvy guy. It's in the news today that foreign governments are hacking all the major campaigns. Well, it's known that Stone, you know, got Paul Manafort in there. He's got the new pollster in there. That's one of his best friends. It's in the news today that the media says, oh, looks like Stone's really the head of the campaign. No, Trump's the head of the campaign. But yes, Stone is as influential as anybody. And so obviously they're breaking into his computer. So we're having to really do some countermeasures and have folks with computers each time come to him to even be able to get him on. He gets on his computer, people jump on it, start surfing on it, start downloading stuff. I mean, this is serious. And it's actually on Drudge Report today, actually dealing with that. Intel chief, foreign hackers spying on campaigns. And that is in the Associated Press today. Some folks are like, oh, nobody's breaking into Roger Stone's computer. No one wants to get into, you know, the Karl Rove for Donald Trump, the presidential frontrunner's computer. Nobody wants to get into Donald Trump's political brain. Oh, no, that's not a target. And I'm sure the White House isn't a target. And I'm sure Hillary Clinton's email isn't a target. Turns out she's been hacked. Of course she was hacked. The Pentagon said, of course she was hacked 2 years ago. And it turned out all these governments were in there. She knew that. Why would she have all that secret stuff on an unshielded computer on purpose to leak info? That's a famous way to sell data but not get caught. You know, you don't go to the park and drop it off under the bench like a lot of other people, got caught doing at the NSA and CIA and going to prison for life. You just put stuff on a server. Oh, gee, I didn't know all these foreign groups are getting on, all these foundations, and then they give you hundreds of millions of dollars. The Gulf states gave her $100+ million alone. She's gotten billions. She's been a spy on the CIA since she was 18 years old. That's been declassified. Her and Clinton are an arranged marriage. We know the name of their section chief when they were in London, infiltrating the Russians. And so she is a spy on purpose, selling data or leaking data. Who knows? Might be disinfo. But it doesn't matter. I know she's after our guns. I know she wants to shut down our power plants. I know she wants forced inoculations. I know she's an enemy of this country. Now, coming up, I'm a pedophile. Infowars.com reports, Truth Revolt reports as well. I'm a pedophile, but not a monster, says the Salon writer. Can you believe that? Salon pushes pedophile sympathy again. That's like 5-6 articles every month I've been seeing. I'm a pedophile, not a monster. And they actually have this slimy guy on about how he's attracted to kids. And he does videos now. So, yeah, I can't even look at him. Just look at that disgusting person. I mean, I have 3 children. And you bet I discriminate against pedophiles. The UN wants to legalize it. I know you have small children. It just makes you can comment on this. But then I want to get into your huge breaking news. And then new vaccines will permanently alter human DNA. The New York Times, an excellent John Rappaport boil-down article giving you more of the story. This is what I've been horrified of for 20 years, but now it's here. They always had them, but now vaccines that go in and, quote, alter your DNA forever and change your entire genetic history. So this is the government vandalizing our genetics, just like they admit GMO crops leak into the DNA. So, folks, we are being jacked with mega massively. God knows what this is going to do. The mutations, the cancers are already off the chart because of a cocktail of reasons. The elite are testing on us to find secrets for themselves. We're the lab rats. We're the guinea pigs. Everything they do is multifaceted. But I mean, what do you call this? Media pushes vaccines that destroy your genetic legacy, that alter who you are, that change your behavior. Government pushes vaccines that give you a lobotomy. I mean, that's what the stress vaccines do. They're here. It's happening. But first, I want to ask Dr. Group this question because he's more of a journalist than even the many degrees he has and, you know, the clinics he runs, and he's one of the biggest nutraceutical producers in the country, one of the biggest designers, highly respected. And I'm so honored to work with him at InfoWarsLife.com. We know that in the Northern Hemisphere, it had doubled since the Manhattan Project by Chernobyl in the mid-'80s, 86. Now, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, anybody can look this up, 93% of reactors, of the 600-plus reactors, 400-plus power producers are leaking. We know there's a lot of secret reactors as well. A lot of spacecraft, they've had reactors in because the public, they don't tell them, that's been admitted. So who knows? But 600 admitted reactors, 2 in Austin. General public's totally, doesn't even know there's one of the biggest research reactors in the world in North Austin, the J.J. Pickles Center. They don't know there's an old reactor from the 50s under the UT facilities by the tower. People can see the smokestacks. My dad's been in it when he was in Plan 2 in high school, already at UT. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. We're here with reactors. They never shut it off, by the way. You can't shut them off. They've got the big one in North Austin. But 93% of them are leaking. CBS said a decade ago 75% are leaking. But you can look it up. 93% are leaking. And they're leaking things that aren't detectable by Geiger counters or field monitors. So I want to ask you before you get into this and break it all down, Dr. Edward Group, why doesn't the elite care? Because 30, 40 years ago, I've studied it. I know you have as well. We've talked about this. They at least tried to contain them. They tried to not have leaks. But now Monbiot, the head eugenicist liberal in England, he says we should thank nuclear reactors and have more of them. So it's entered a very nihilistic, kind of like these roulette parties where one person has AIDS or HIV and everybody tries to get it. And heterosexuals now want to die too. It's very trendy. It's, the sexiest women want to die. It's very, very macabre. We're not joking, folks. This is happening. What is this? I mean, why they've got enough nukes to blow the planet up 10 times. Why not just get it over with now? What do you think's going on?
Well, you have the oil and gas industry, which is $1 trillion industry. You have the pharmaceutical industry, which is $1 trillion industry. And then you have the nuclear power and nuclear weapon industry, which, believe it or not, nuclear power plants are extremely profitable. They don't care about what's going to happen to the people. They don't care about what's going to be leaking into the air and the water.
They don't even care if their kids die.
They're just worried about profitability, and they're very profitable. And not only that, it's a population control mechanism. If you look at the spoke and hub model that we always talk
lowers
about,
fertility.
You have nuclear radiation, which nobody can see, nobody can measure a lot of it, especially the individual people. A lot of times you don't see high-level political people or the globalists or people that know about the damaging effects of radiation that live by these. They already know. So they're not going to live next to or in the 100-mile or 200-mile radius of nuclear power plants. And so I think that that has a lot to do with it. And China, for example, is building 20 floating nuclear power plants right now that are going to be floating in the ocean. And
of course, they're famous for dumping waste. That way they can just dump it. No one's there to monitor it. I mean, this is insane.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's just another reason, even though there are a lot of good things that are happening right now in the world, there's also all of these nuclear power plants, a lot of them that were built in the 1920s, 30s, 40s.
And mainline environmentalists are all over the news saying, we love nuclear, get rid of coal plants that are totally clean, what carbon dioxide plants need, we're at a carbon-starved level. It's almost like science fiction, like they're space aliens, and they want a radioactive environment and don't like carbon dioxide. I mean, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but they're like terraforming us, cutting off the carbon, making everything radioactive, spraying radioactive isotopes in the air. That's declassified. We're going to skip this break as I cut into your time. Please continue, Dr. Grip. I mean, there's something behind this.
Well, what's behind it, I think, is the scary thing about radiation is the half-life. I mean, these things are radioactive, can be for millions of years. For example, you have cesium, strontium, radioactive iodine, you have plutonium, uranium, all of these things that can damage the environment, the earth, the soil, the human body for the whole history of the earth. I mean, that's how damaging these things are. But one of the things that not too many people are talking about, and one of the things that is starting to be more reported on, is the tritium. And most people say, tritium, what's that? All we hear about is radioactive iodine.
That's right. Let's get into the stuff that is very hard to detect, but just as deadly.
So tritium is actually radioactive hydrogen, and hydrogen is the main component in water and air, and it's really scary when you think about it, because I started doing the research, especially with the tritium leaks that were detected at Biscayne Bay down in Miami. As a matter of fact, just about every single nuclear power plant is releasing tritium. What is tritium? Tritium is basically radioactive hydrogen, radioactive water. Now, with most toxic radioactive materials, they're going to accumulate in the tissue. For example, with cesium and strontium and radioactive iodine, you're going to have problems with your thyroid gland. That's why we're seeing thyroid dysfunction through the roof all over the world right now.
Listen, I was at a Kirby Lane, and now I'm paying attention. Suddenly, young people, especially women, they just have these big goiters hanging under their necks. And I know that's the fluoride in the water doing that partially, but what's going on?
So it depends on what part of the world or what part of the United States that you're living in. I mean, just for example, up in Indian Point in New York, the reactor's been leaking heavily. It's leaking tritium into the Hudson River. All those people around there, you're starting to see.
And by the way, while you're talking, we're even putting mainstream news headlines up with what you're saying. I mean, this is not your opinion. You have for radio listeners, he has a stack of documents, articles in front of him.
Right, and because anything that I think is a major health concern, obviously, like you, we want to report on it so people can contact their local authorities, contact the government, not like they're going to do anything about it.
Well, more heat on this is good.
I mean, it's just education. The more people know about it, they can protect themselves.
And that's NBC News. Radioactive tritium leaks found at 48 U.S. nuke sites. So we wonder why cancer is exploding off the chart.
So the problem with tritium is tritium is not measured at these nuclear sites because you cannot pick it up with a Geiger counter, and these nuclear facilities are not